everybody. It's August 8th, 2011. James Rink here. Welcome to another edition to Super Soldier Talk. For those who don't know, a super soldier is a genetically modified superhuman that has been subjected to Mark Ultra programming for top secret military and combat operations. I'm a Gen 5 super soldier, and even though I don't have all the pieces of the puzzle together, it is my hope that this show will be like a public forum so that others like me can share their experiences and we can network with each other and provide a public record in case something happens to us. Now, I have a lot to talk about. First of all, I have an announcement to make about super soldier Patrick Malini. Then later on, I will be sharing some information on the metalization of bones of super soldiers, and at the end of the show, I will be releasing some never-before-seen pictures of some alien spaceships from Rigel B that was taken aboard the International Space Station. So, first, let's go ahead and begin with Patrick. Okay, I had to take down the video of Patrick because he has been caught embellishing his story. And in addition to that, he no longer has any association with Super Soldier Talk or to James Rink or to Neological. When I first began this series, it was my goal to provide a public forum for other super soldiers or anybody who's involved in Mark Ultra to share their information that is not available to the general public. I do what I can to vet the people that I interview, but if they choose to lie and make up stories on their own free will, there's little else I could do other than to remove the content and offer you guys a public apology. So that's what I'm doing right now. Now, for those who haven't seen the video of Patrick Malini, he actually claimed that after I accidentally activated him, he went rogue. He recalled some missions we did, said I saved his life and remembers fighting against clones. He claimed I had an alter named JR and gave me some encrypted binary codes which oddly equal to my birth date and numerical value of my clone. During this time, he claimed someone was following him and he hadn't slept in 3 days, insisting that if he did sleep, they would get him. Eventually, he eventually did fall asleep, and I didn't hear back from him for a few days. When I contacted him, he had no memory of the previous events. Well, he claimed he had no memory, and he acted as if nothing happened. And he even commented that he threw up. Now, that's actually common with Mark Ultra victims that have been recently programmed. If they get triggered, they may vomit unexplicably. Now, a few months later, he contacted me again and asked to have his story placed on my show. Now, while we were discussing the details, I was getting threatening text messages that said, "Patrick Malini is ours, and we are going to shut you down." Then Patrick claimed to black out, and he woke about 10 minutes later. He said he woke up on the kitchen floor with a needle mark. Apparently, all that was made up. And the way I found out about this is that I had my friend actually contact, he texted the number that they relayed the text message to me, and this individual fessed up that he was Patrick's friend and that he claimed to made it all up. He said that this show is bullshit and claimed everything that you see here is an act. He said that he doesn't believe any of this shit and said that Patrick just wanted to fuck with James. So I contacted the group I work with to figure out what the hell is going on here. And they reaffirmed that Patrick was indeed a super soldier. However, he is a super soldier spy. His job is to infiltrate other super soldiers and sabotage their operations so that he can make himself look better to advance himself in whatever particular way. And from what I gather, he's actually been caught on missions doing the same thing. He would sabotage other super soldiers. So apparently he is a super soldier rookie, but he hasn't been exposed to all the torture like we have to keep him in line. So, in addition to that, I guess, I don't know if he was intentionally sent to me, or I really don't know. I think the best course of action is just to forget about it and let it be. So, I'm going to bring some, to bring closure, I wanted to bring some closure to all this, so I actually contacted Patrick, and I asked him to come up with a written statement as to, I didn't really care what kind of excuses he had, but just some kind of it didn't even have to be an apology, just something to explain why he did what he did. And even though I confronted him about the text messages and how everything was made up, he would not apologize. In fact, he just said, "Believe what you want." That's his final statement. So I guess we'll go from there. And this is why I have a disclaimer on my videos. I can do what I can to make sure that people are who they say they are, but you know, some of us may have the bits and pieces, and we may not know. I mean, we may have dreams, or may have certain flashes of memories. They could be cover memories. But if somebody comes on the show and intentionally tries to just create a whole fictitious story, that's when we draw a line. Okay, but I want to put all that aside, and I want to start talking about some things that have been going on with me. So, first of all, I'm still being used as a MELAB, and for those who don't know, MELABs are military abductions, okay? That's what it stands for. I continue to get needle marks every night, and sometimes during the day when I'm not even sleeping. You know, I could be sitting here doing this interview and get a needle mark. These injections are, from what I've been told, they're actually nano injections, and they are trying to attach nanites to the codons within my DNA to not only stop my alter, which I believe is Agent Sabretooth, from integrating, but also to drug me, to stop me from remembering the trauma. Now, this may sound counterintuitive, but those who are handling me in the Universal Soldier MELAB project are trying to assist me. If my alter integrates with me, he will take over my life, and because he's so powerful and telekinetic, basically me will be no more. It will be just the alter. So, and plus he's trained like an attack dog, so it would make me very dangerous if I went rogue. So I'm not even going to use those two sentences together with my name, because I might get in trouble. I think I sort of have gotten in trouble about that, but I intend to be peaceful and nonviolent. So let's go on here. Now, despite this, I think it's getting harder and harder for them to fully mind control me when I'm activated. Example of this occurred on February 19, 2011. I went to lay down on the couch, and that evening I noticed a needle mark on my lip, and then my back started hurting real bad. I thought I pulled a muscle, but the pain got so bad I could hardly breathe with each breath I took. So I had a remote viewer look into this, and what he saw me is being led into a room where I was interrogated by a doctor in a white lab coat. There was an argument. I yelled something like, "Fuck no, you're not going to do that to me." And the guard behind me hit me with the backside of his gun, knocking me on the ground. So, in addition to that, a few days ago, I actually woke up from a nap, and I noticed blood splatter marks all over my shorts, and I'm going to show you that for just a moment here. I'm hoping this camera will be able to focus in. If not, I'll just put a picture in it. But you can see some of the splatter marks. So, it's right there. And, where is it all? I ran this through the wash. I didn't realize what happened. That's why it's kind of... So you can kind of see it. So somebody's blood is on these shorts. And so I had my friend remote view it. And to see what was going on. And he said that he saw me lying in my bed, and an agent was trying to get a hold of me. For whatever, abduct me in a MELAB or something. And for whatever reason, my programming broke down, and I hit the guy in the nose, breaking it, and his blood went all over my clothes. And that's just one story of events. I don't know if that's true, okay, but we'll see. Okay, and I also had somebody remote view who my handler is. And amazingly, he said he didn't see him as a human, but instead, he's a reptilian scientist in a lab coat, and he saw many, many clones of me around him, which may explain why I have no missing time. When they take me, what they do is they put a clone of me in my place, and they put me wherever they take me. I guess they stick me in the trip chair, and I don't know, maybe my soul, or like piece of my soul is transferred into one of their clones or something. I really don't know, or I bilocate. And then when they're done, they extract all the memories of whatever I've just been doing out of me, and then they put me. They remove the clone, and then they take the memories out of the clone and upload it to me. So I don't even remember having any missing time. So I guess that's their clever way of doing that. Okay, so now putting all the remote viewers and all the psychic readings, all that stuff aside, I actually was able to get some physical, well, pretty much physical, evidence of my file. Somebody was very gracious enough to actually look me up in the NSA, and so what I'm going to be reading here is actually Umbra 8 classification. So this is actually on the NSA files. Well, unless it's been since scrubbed, I don't know. But Umbra 8 means it's 8 levels above top secret, which is really, it's not really that high. I mean, it's high enough. I personally think my file is probably, well, let me go ahead and just read here, okay? Normally it's illegal to share any information that's classified, but since I never signed any contract with them, I feel that, I guess that kind of exonerates myself. I don't know. So let me go ahead and read this to you. I checked early before I left work, and James Rink is in the system. His name comes up as a modification candidate for Project Bleak, Project Abandon, and Project Equalize. These are all minor projects for super soldier modifications. These were later programs that took place in the early 90s and 2000s. He was a short subject, meaning he was only used for several months. He was genetically modified. His program failed in 2008, and he was released from the system. There was only one page of information on him and no other connected documents. So yes, James is in the system, but I do not think he is active anymore. Okay, so it goes on, it says here, since this is only Umbra 8, it's not the last word on this. And this is where I was trying to get to earlier. It is, from what we were able to reason here, apparently around 2008, my file, or whatever I've really been doing, has been has been classified at a higher level. So that's why Umbra 8 only had only a little bit of information. So let me go ahead and read, because I know I just mentioned all these projects. So I'm going to talk about what some of these projects are. Project Bleak was between 1992 and 1999. This project carried over from a project in the 70s. This dealt with recruiting young males older than the average operative, late teens, early 20s, and monitoring to see if certain trigger objects or words could be used under certain social situations. This was an MKC project. Project Abandon, between 1996 and 2002, dealt with taking super soldier candidates who were found to be physically or mentally incompetent for the project and doing DNA modifications and injections, later nano-injections on the candidates in order to see if these individuals were correctable. If these candidates improved mentally and or physically, then they would be moved on to super soldier alignment projects and begin trip seating and alteration standards. Project Equalize in 1999 and 2004. This project was a carryover project from earlier projects dealing with possible starseed children. These candidates would be checked for genetic mutation in alien DNA, such as 2 hearts and enhanced kidneys and other enhanced organs which might be useful for a super soldier. If certain aspects were found that were favorable to the super soldier project, then the candidate would be sent to a specific department for alteration, program session, and a caseworker would then develop a specific program for the candidate. Okay, so that's that. I really don't know what to comment about all that. I mean, maybe I do have 2 hearts, maybe I do have 2 kidneys, I don't know. I have no idea what's inside of me. So, okay, well, I guess I really have no comment on any of that, but anyway, let's go on here. Now, one of my friends, she actually had an interesting dream, well, like a lucid dream, and she remembers seeing James Casbald in an underground facility. For those who don't know who James Casbald is, he is another, he is a super soldier, but he was actually trained in the Peasmore Dome in the UK. So he comes from the British side of all this. Now, according to this dream, she remembers seeing Casbolt wearing an SS uniform. She remembers him being highly respected like a teacher or instructor in these underground facilities. He said he was working in Area 63 or 64, which is inside Area 51. She remembers hearing Casbolt saying how I, herself, and the rest of the super soldiers are DSM code hybrids or clones. DSM hybrid programming codes is, I'm not quite sure what this means. Traffic physical transmit, dimensional classification of a hybrid. And then she goes on to say, in other words, we are not humans. We are specifically created to serve for space operations, be it on Mars, Venus, and Titan, and even beyond our solar system. In this dream, Casbolt mentioned that they are using high doses of potassium and other chemicals to keep us on peak level. He kept talking about some top secret operation, Operation Rebirth 163-64. It has something to do with recorrecting our vision, mind, immune system, durability, genes, gene mutation, etc. And he said that it's going to be very painful with many strange side effects such as mental deficiencies. So she goes on to say that they are giving us potassium and calcium as beta and channel blockers. Potassium is being used in higher doses to activate carbon. It is a natural pain desensitizer for radiation protection, such as cosmic radiation and atomic nuclear testing radiation. Casbolt also said to eat foods rich in zinc, calcium, magnesium, iron, selenium, and iodine. Now, what I find interesting about all this is that the last time I actually had my blood tested, they only found one anomaly, and that was high levels of potassium. And of course, I was trying to get the doctor to explain, well, why would I have high levels of potassium? So, of course, he couldn't explain it, neither can I. So maybe this might explain what's in my injections. I don't know. And I wanted to show you that document for my blood work. Unfortunately, that medical record has gone missing, and I've had some problems with some of my medical records gone missing periodically. And anyway. So you just have to take my word on it. Okay. And she also goes on to say that she remembers me in the spaceships. She said I looked more alien than human. I was tall, dark blonde hair, and was wearing a green uniform with two 3-sided pyramids. And perhaps in a future time, maybe she can come on here and explain a little bit more about this. But that's all she has for now. So I'm going to go on here, and now I'm going to start talking about the metalization of bones. Now, for people who don't know, this involves the process of replacing bones with metal components. Now, this has been a big part of the SS project since the days of Hitler's Übermann. Now, what I'm actually going to talk about is something that's a little bit controversial because the source of this information is hard to verify. But there was a article on the Russian magazine Pravda, okay, and that's kind of like, that would be kind of like the tabloid magazines here in the United States, but apparently they posted a strange story based on a research gathered by a Jeff Strasberg titled Top Secret Terminators of the Soviet Union. Now, the only problem is, no one knows who this Jeff Strasberg is, and which makes confirming any of this information nearly impossible. But maybe it was written under a pen name. I don't know. So I'm gonna have the link on there so you can go read all that. But I'm gonna just summarize some of the more interesting parts of this article. He goes on to claim that between 1936 and 1941, the Soviet Union was working on a secret space program to create super soldiers. Originally, there were 300 volunteers, most of which were teenagers coerced into cooperation. They would implant gold electrodes into the brain, which would turn on and off pain centers, and their bodies were replaced with steel metal implants, prostheses, to protect them from combat injuries. According to this article, A week before the beginning of World War II, half of these soldiers were sent into combat in Germany, and on the first day of the war, they were completely destroyed by German artillery. So the author was basically suggesting that perhaps German intelligence knew what was going on, so that's why they had them all destroyed. Now, apparently, all 150 of these, well, half of this squadron was killed, and okay, so then it goes on. It says here that after the war, the project was deemed non-beneficial. They said it was a failure, noting that the creation of a nuclear bomb made the idea of a super soldier Terminators obsolete. As if you can really believe that, but that's what, according to the research he gathered. So to cover it all up, the intelligence agencies had all eyewitnesses and personnel involved in the creation of these super soldiers transferred into the front lines to be taken out by enemy fire. But the story doesn't end here. After the American Allies captured footage in a secret facility in Germany, this footage showed autopsies of Soviet troops in which the bones of their bodies were being replaced with steel prosthesis. Footage was found showing a soldier's leg was being cut open, the bones were being pulled out, and something metallic was put in its place. While this was going on, the commentator was saying how the operation was conducted without anesthesia, as the pain center of the human brain in this soldier was removed. So this soldier didn't feel it. So they were like cutting him all open and he didn't feel anything. In the footage, the soldier was smiling as if this was no big deal. And then the soldier's arm was cut off at the elbow despite a fountain of blood. The volunteer kept on smiling. That kind of reminds me of that new Universal Soldier movie, Regeneration. I don't know if anybody's seen that. I recommend seeing that if you're interested in this stuff, because it almost sounds like a gruesome scene from that movie. But anyway, it goes on here and says, most of the soldiers who were exposed to these surgeries died soon after, as foreign parts were rejected by the body. Those with disabled pain centers later developed brain tumors and mental illnesses. The article goes on saying how the Soviets were not successful in creating a super soldier. However, there was like this extra. There's this story here how a physician. I was going to say what town. Probably Vipsk. I can't say that word. The physician's name was Sergei Konovalenko. And he said that he found the remains of a man in an old cemetery at the outskirts of the city. Apparently, the river flooded this gravesite, and the contents within floated to the surface. He found a bony skeleton with metal prosthesis on hinges. All the human bones, not just the arms and legs, were replaced with metal that had a stamped logo showing the Soviet star with hammer and sickle, and the inscription Krakow .05.39.ASCH. Apparently, this area was a center which conducted these horrific experiments. Now, what the article doesn't say is that after the war, these experiments continued on in secret using different metals such as gold and titanium, which the body does not reject. So, for instance, if you blend gold with steel, the body will accept it. Okay. Now, in recap, in order to make a first-gen super soldier, what you need to, basically all you need to do is first you have to separate the pain center of the brain with gold, cut open the arms and legs and chest, and then you insert a metal skeleton, then reattach the muscles, inject steroids, and you're done. That was basically the definition of first-gen. Of course, that's not the only way they made first-gens, but I mean that was the first crude way. But basically, most of the people who survived this, their life was a living hell. Now, let's fast forward to the modern era. According to the Heather material found on the Project Camelot website, the government has been kidnapping men throughout North America and giving them biological enhancements in their SS augmentation projects. Now, I'm going to post a link to this article as well, so I highly recommend everyone to read the Heather material if you haven't read it already. Now, the person who released this information became so disgusted with what she was doing, she decided to go rogue and release the details of what she was working on in the black projects on the internet. And I guess apparently she's been on the run ever since. I I really don't know too much details about her background, but it goes on to say, it says here that according to Heather, they would select certain individuals within Project Talent that had DNA deemed compatible with this kind of experimentation. Now, for those who don't know what Project Talent is, it's basically the Mark Ultra recruiting arm of the CIA, or really all these intelligence agencies. Basically what happens is that all children, when they're born, have a DNA sample taken from them, and it's put in an NSA database, and this DNA is analyzed, and if they find certain individuals that deems promising, they will watch them throughout their life and put them in Project Talent. And there's about 300,000 people within the United States, really, so really mostly younger adults, but I guess a lot of them are growing up now. I don't know how long Project Talent has been around, but it's pretty disgusting because, these people they never consented to all this. And interesting enough, I was actually in the Duke Talent Identification Program when I was a kid. So that's the other thing. If you have a kid, if your kid is in any kind of gifted programming at school, or who's taking any kind of gifted testing, they're going to be put in. they'll be put into this database. So especially, it's something from Duke University actually has a program called the Talent Identification Program. That might be a little red flag there, but I haven't really contacted the people at Duke University if they know anything about. Anyway, let's go on here. Okay, so once they identify these individuals, they will be recruited, and they were drugged and branded with biological tracking device. Now, when I say individuals, they were mostly younger men, like teenagers, late teens. So I don't know if they consented or not, but she didn't say they did. Then they were prepped for surgery by placing biological organic computer components into the body. Now, these chips would stimulate electromagnetic growth around the codes of the DNA, which they had to do in order to prevent autoimmune conflicts, like the rejection of the steel prosthesis. So they were trying to get that under control, or within controllable or manageable. Now, at this point, vital organs were augmented with wire enhancers which stimulated the human's body-owned static electrical field. And apparently all of us have this static charge within us, and if you have a way of tapping into it, there's enough energy to actually power a locomotive. So they were trying to manipulate this static energy charge in us, and now they're going to explain how they did that and what they would do. Okay, first they removed the appendix. She didn't say why. And then they began injecting a compound designated as KTL white twice a day for 2 months. Now, I have no idea what that is. During this time, someone would replace the kidneys or liver with clone organs grown in a special growth hypobaric chamber. These organs contain the host DNA, chipped with nanotechnology which contain microcells to repair tissue cells rapidly on contact. For instance, a cut that needs stitches could heal in an hour. From the very beginning, these units had numerous problems. They would cry, walk in circles, rock back and forth, as the brain and body's motor skills could not handle the electrical outputs, again with that static energy charge within us. On paper, they were the fastest and strongest humans ever, but they were emotional wrecks. These units could calculate faster, run faster, did not get tired as easily, could jump higher and longer, and they didn't need to drink water, as their organics were able to recycle waste at the base of their spinal column. I guess they had some kind of device that could recycle. I don't know. Anyway, so it goes on to say how they corrected the problems with additional grounding wires. Then they were locked into a room for several weeks and only given nutrient injections. Despite having all the necessary nutrients in their bloodstreams, they would beg for food because even though they didn't need it, they couldn't even digest it. Because in their mind, well, I don't know, maybe they pulled out their stomachs. So they couldn't as in when I say they couldn't digest the food, it's I guess they're like a cyborg now, and but in their mind, I guess, you know, I mean, if you're used to eating food all your life, and all of a sudden you become a cyborg, in your minds, psychosomatically, you believe that you have to eat food. And these poor kids were basically begging all the time for food to get something to eat. But sounds pretty sad. Okay, then they began to upload the combat programming. But what they failed to create were compartments within the mind, at least initially. And I guess for whatever reason, these units began to fight back, and they were ultimately terminated, at least the first few prototypes they created. From then on, they would insert brain implants and contain all the combat programming and alters. Again, dissociative identity disorder, multiple personality. It's not really that hard to create DID within people. Just 20 minutes, a little bit of trauma. They would stick needles in the eardrums, use strobing lights, and show images of torture. They have virtual reality chairs where they can do all this. So they just split the mind. And that way, the main personality had no idea of the trauma they were going through. About 600 people had this done to them, and in late 2006, were about to be deployed for combat purposes in Operation Retaliation. Now, at the last minute, the Department of Defense came in and ordered all these units destroyed, and when I say units, really, people, but they referred to them as units. So they had these people killed, and the scientists involved were forced to comply, or else they lose their job, or I'm sorry, they lose their lives. They're not just going to lose their job. So basically, they rounded them all up and gave them lethal injections. Sounds pretty bad, pretty sad. Their bodies were then processed in a refining facility that makes omega-3 vitamins and sold to the public as flaxseed oil with omega-3, which happens to be the name of this umbrella project. The author claimed that most likely the pharmaceutical company Merck sold these vitamins, were selling these vitamins of the guts of these super soldiers, as they were closely tied into the operations. So, if anybody's out there is on any pharmaceuticals that's made by Merck, I highly recommend that you, well, I'm not a doctor, so I can't make any recommendations. Use your own intuition there. Okay. I guess I'm not going to be a Merck salesperson today. Heather then goes on to note how Operation Retaliation was meant to be a mock invasion of the military. Now, notice the words retaliation, okay? So, what they're trying to do here, basically certain factions within the New World Order, okay, it's a pro-New World Order group. This would be like Daddy Bush and Kissinger and God knows who. These folks, they wanted to use these augmented super soldiers to infiltrate the U.S. Army, and then when martial law would come, they would be activated and kill all the military generals and white hats, which are secretly opposing the New World Order. So that's where the word retaliation is coming from. They're retaliating against people who are opposing the New World Order. Now, the reason why they had all these units exterminated is because, these 600 men that they were going to use in Operation Retaliation is because they actually were working on a new design that's even more modern. And so the next generation of SS prototypes were made from scratch. Basically what they would do is they would take metal frames, I don't know what kind of metal, but they said they would clone human tissue over it. These units, so I guess, like I said, they make them from scratch, and so these units, supposedly their personalities were much more controllable and had less problems than earlier models. They also had the benefit that they could not be harmed by chemical weapons, as their skin would sweat, a waxy substance protecting them from chemicals. Bullets could not breach their exoskeleton, harming them which would harm any of their inner organs. And they would sleep in an induced coma. And their organs would regenerate in a matter of hours. They were strong enough to lift a tank, but it would damage their skin. They even had a self-oxygenating chamber in their chest, which would allow them to survive in space indefinitely without any masks on. Apparently, 29 of these units were created, and each contained with them nuclear smart bombs. Theoretically, if they're detonated remotely, they could potentially start World War III. So there's a battle going on right now trying to get access to the stand-down codes. And my guess is there's probably some intervention going on with the extraterrestrials. And so Heather also goes on to talk about a project, Damocles. I hope I said that word right. It's a Greek word, which involves sending soldiers through dimensional time gates around this planet and off planet. Apparently, she witnessed military personnel sending soldiers through stargates only to be returned a few seconds later by a 7-foot-tall reptilian being. So she was taken down in this facility, and I guess while this soldier, and she also says this soldier they were like totally mind controlled and brainwashed. So I guess they were more like biological robots, but they were like they would send these soldiers through the Stargate, and even a half a second later, after this soldier entered the Stargate, this soldier would come back. His body would be burning and turning into ash and disintegrating into dust, and it was actually being dragged by this reptilian being. And there was like another soldier in a hazmat suit that was approaching this reptilian being, because the reptilian came through the Stargate with the soldier back into the base, and they're like, oh shit. And the reptilian basically caused the guy in the hazmat suit to also burn up into dust. And what she said is that apparently these beings were from the 6th dimension, and because the dimensional frequency was so high, and we are in the 3rd dimension, okay, so our body cannot tolerate this frequency without burning to ash. And she said something about how the dimensional clashes of the static charges within our body superheats, resulting in spontaneous combustion. So that might actually explain what causes spontaneous combustion. Now, she goes on, okay, so when this was taking place, she made the suggestion to her commander, I guess she was in another room watching all this, to send one of the SS units she was prototyping through these stargates. And immediately one of these reptilian beings grabbed her commander, pulled him through the stargate, and threw his charred body back into the base, and sent her a strong telepathic message with pain in her head, with the words, "That is a no." So I guess whatever these reptilian beings, they don't want any of these super soldiers. If the government wants to play around with their toys, they can do so on this planet, but if they're going to start sending their crap to other worlds, that's basically when, the extraterrestrials draw a line. Now, I'm not saying these reptilians are benevolent or not. It might not even been their fault that these people are burning up, but actually she goes on to saying that in time, these reptilian beings eventually started taking over the base, so more and more were coming through this wormhole, Stargate. And apparently one of them took a liking to her and was helping her. He decided to help her escape. So he showed her a way out of the base and told her that some of us are here to control this planet, some of us are here to enslave it further, most wish to rule and claim it, but we are here to protect it. So, as scary and as as scary as reptilians look, not all of them are here to control humanity. Some are here to help us. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop here and let you read the rest of this on your own. I'm not sure whatever happened to Heather, but I do hope she stays safe, as her testimony will be needed, I'm sure, when all this information comes to the public. And And that's one of the goals of this show, is to actually expedite this process, because otherwise, I mean, there was like Phil Schneider. He was talking about Dulce bass in the mid-90s. So mid-90s they were talking about. Even going back before then, there's whistleblowers and people talking. And, here we are 15 years later, and it's like, well, the secrecy still goes on. I think a lot of that's changing. For one thing, the internet has helped out a lot, and but there are a lot of people that don't want to wake up and are not searching, and well, that's their loss. But anyway, okay. And speaking of Dulce, I was getting ready to talk about Dulce. So now what I've just shared with you was a summary of various government projects to create cybernate people. Okay, cybernate means turning humans into human cyborgs. Now, these experiments have also been conducted by extraterrestrials for eons, and there actually are extraterrestrial races that you would consider biological robots. They would be mostly nanotechnology clones. You could consider some of the Greys like this. But some star seeds actually on this planet contain these genetics. So they would be part human, part cyborg, part extraterrestrial. Okay, that makes any sense? Now, there are people in the government that found these people to be very interesting, and they are actually abducting these civilians without their consent and genetically enhancing them in various Mark Ultra sub-projects. Okay, again, this goes to Me Labs, where they actually take people out of their home. A lot of people who are subject to Me Labs may not even know it. If you get needle marks, if you black out, of course that may not always be the case, then, missing time, you get scoop marks, you have missing memories years from your life, and you probably have been Me Labbed. Now, just recently, a retired U.S. Air Force colonel who worked at the Dulce facility, underground facility, I think he called it the Ariba something, was here, well, whatever, I don't remember. But it's more commonly on the internet known as the Dulce facility. He has gone public regarding information not only Dulce, but also how the government is abducting civilians in what are known as Me Labs, again, military abductions. According to him, what they're trying to do is recreate the gray scameter warrior subspecies, which was a subrace of greys that was genetically enhanced with immense strength, high intelligence, violent tendencies, and could shapeshift. These beings were deemed too dangerous by even the greys, and they were all destroyed. However, some greys and some humans actually carry these dormant genes within their DNA, which the military wants to get their hands on. So I'm gonna post a link to this. It's like a 2.5 hour interview, and you can read all this stuff. He talks about Dulce and all this, but this is just a small section from it I found interesting. And he says, the dark element of Dulce is attempting to gain a complete picture of the gray scameter subspecies genetic code, if they can obtain it, to experiment with sequencing their DNA for these damned ultimate soldier programs they are conducting. This is the kind of work they are really interested in, and now are performing. Massive modification testosterone steroidal injections coupled with extracellular matrix for rapid healing, which I guess that goes again earlier with the they actually put like nanotechnology, and you can heal a lot faster, like in 2-3 hours. Genetic brain reconstruction of the front temporal lobes for rapid recall and super fast mind calculations. And again, some like people with like autism have the ability. You could like give them a mathematical equation, and they could see it right in their head. They know it right up. This like they're like human calculators. Imagine if you could allow anyone, or even like a super soldier, to think of come up with calculations like super fast. They're out in the field and they can calculate the distance. If they're like a sniper, the distance, the wind speed and all that when they're making their calculations. So, and it goes on to says here that they would actually be subjected to deep brain stimulation to allow selective brain areas to be turned on or off, allowing higher focus and greater brain utilization and brain plasticity to allow the brain to the ability to grow and adapt, even neurogenesis, which means to grow new cells. Maybe if they were shot and in the kidneys, their kidney would regenerate on their own. Okay, and it goes on here, it says, and who do you think they are testing this on? Volunteer soldiers? No. It is innocent humans, unwilling participants in their game of playing God. Again, this is the United States government. It's not just the United States government, it's all governments. Well, not all governments, but those involved within the axis of Zionism, the Khazar Zionist Bolsheviks, the what we call the United States, Great Britain, Israel, anyone who's connected to this triangle of Zionism would be a high potential connected to all this. And goes on, it says, unwilling participants in their game of playing God. That's right, I already told you. And this is why they are also abducting people now. Me Labs, read up on it. But what is sick is that we learned this from the Greys. We didn't invent this, and now we accept this as regular practice for the advancement of the military and for our protection. But protection from whom? God damn it. That's always the big problem. There was never any enemy that justified such paranoia and validation for this disturbed work we are now involved in. And I don't have this written down, but he actually goes on as saying how the military keeps creating all these wars. There's this war, war in Afghanistan, war in Iraq, war in Iran. Now they're talking about going to war in Syria and war in Libya. I'm like, the only reason why the military wants more and more wars is so they can test all these applications. As long as there's always going to be more wars, there's going to be a need to create so it's like a perpetuating situation here, and also they keep creating the idea of the terrorists, oh no, the terrorists are going to get us, we got to be protected. So then they're going to go ahead and abduct people from their homes and, do this kind of, this practice is just disgusting, And what do you think is the solution to bring all this under control? Well, I think the people that are involved, I think that they should probably be, at best, I think they should probably be sterilized. I think there probably should be some kind of program to exonerate them, but, just so that they could, be forgiven and so we can move on. We'll go ahead and wipe the slate clean. We'll forgive everything they've done, and let's just go ahead and let's release this technology to help humanity instead of creating super soldiers. How about we create super human beings, and where everybody could be a superhuman being? So let's bring this technology out to the public sector. But how is that going to happen? I don't know. It's like the thing with anything in the military. It's really difficult to get anything to change. So I guess it might take an act of God, but you never know. So it goes on here and it says that now some of these super soldiers actually contain metal bones with extraterrestrial origin. The closest similar substance you could find about this on planet Earth will be like gold. So the metal will be like gold, but it'll be strong as diamonds. So the element is not actually found on Earth, if that makes any sense. Now, according to James Casbolt, he actually has mentioned a metal alloy with that he says is within him. It's called a pre-alloy, P-R-I, and it's a black-colored metal found within the rings of Saturn. And according to Casbolt, he claims that this element is in not only is his body, but it has the ability to expand and grow in a few seconds, like shapeshift. They could technically shrink or enlarge it to copy the shape of any person they wanted to cybernate. So what they do is they create a metal skeleton into any shape, okay, or height, and then they would clone tissue over it. And they said that there was the bone marrow encased within this pre-alloy has the ability to heal extremely quickly and slow down the aging process, allowing anyone to live forever and become indestructible. Furthermore, some Nazi SS officers have actually taken an injectable formula of this marrow and still haven't aged a day since World War II. The combination of this pre-alloy and marrow also carries a strange energy pattern that results in atomic energy, allowing anyone with this metal an everlasting energy source that never runs out and empowers the batteries within their cybernated bodies. Some of these extraterrestrial cyborgs actually have within them atomic batteries which fuel a powerful network of hydraulic servo mechanisms which can move their exoskeleton. In other words, the creation of a sentient engine. Casbolt goes on to say that he has two seemingly opposing elements within his spine. Spinal fluids, which are energetic particles that have been positively charged, and in his spinal disc contain a metal, vanadium, I think I said that right, which is negatively charged. These spinal discs contain components such as bipolar plates, electrodes, catalysts, and membranes. But let me go ahead and read a little bit more information about this pre-alloy, and this comes from one of the contacts that James was able to get. And he said, well, this individual said, well, you asked if you have marrow and how it works. It's rather complex, but I want you to think perspective and literal on this, as this is very important. Your grafting was allocated to what is called a dual bio pre-augmentation. Pre is an OP alloy. I don't know what that means, don't ask. Where it comes from is classified. My opinion is that it's from the Saturn's rings. You have an underalloy that is a strength buffer. The pre has a trait, it binds with your blood cells and muscles, allowing you to still produce marrow. Yours is just a little more dense. The overgraft is sheared off at points to absorb shock and interact with the core material that was used to produce marrow. Used to replace your cartilage. Your spinal fluids are energetic particles that have been positively charged. Your discs are made of vanadium that are negatively charged to stop the fluid from rushing into your bloodstream and stopping your heart. Your new bone that sits between the two alloys is all that remains of your skeleton. This is needed. As good as pre is for conductivity and symbiotic joining with its host, human bone is needed to act as a mineral reservoir to keep your pH balance and iron levels as normal. The lack of this results in sickness, and you still need your organs. Your pre has the ability to be stronger than any metal, but it must be conditioned. You looked active, so that it should be fine. Lungs have pore fillers on the interior chambers that help filter carbon, gas, and other harmful breathable inhibitors. Note, during diving, you are more susceptible to the bends due to the rate that carbon dioxide is expelled from your lungs. It's a trade-off, but nothing we have perfected. You're safer not using equipment. Heart is normal. One thing to take note of is the primary organ fails, the left side's back up will kick in. Should both ventricles fail, your spinal fluid will keep your brain active for 48 hours. During this time, you will experience energy loss and diminished mental capacity unless a new heart is transplanted or spinal cartridges are administered. Think of it as putting an air stone in a goldfish bowl. Your liver is able to filter out a number of new chemicals. Arsenic is just a mention of one of them. Your sweat is thicker than before because the pre affects enzymes in the body. Your sweat helps guard against chemical attacks. Your nerve endings are able to shut down communication of non-essential data to the brain during trauma, so pain is lost, but only after a certain period of extended data. If what you are doing could result in critical system failure or extreme tissue damage, pain can be controlled through your income mental control system. I don't know what that is, but okay. I think that should be covered at a later date, as you might be familiar with it or not. In your eyes, you have the ability to squeeze the ocular pads in your eyes, allowing telescopic sight. This takes practice. Your chest has new features. Your sternum has a hub device. Should blood oxygen levels drop below 20%, this produces a massive amounts of oxygenated plasma, not blood, that is able to fuel the brain, keeping it active for 32 hours. This is self-replenishing. It does not need a new chip or implant. The pre helps replicate this. The chip controls and stimulates it. You also have a blood pressure gauge to help you cope at altitudes. Okay, so it ends there. You know, what I comment about this, well, I mean, I guess they're doing all this stuff. I mean, I don't know. I mean, and Casbolt also, who also goes by the name Michael Prince now, I mean, he says this is happening to him. I mean, I tend to believe it, but, you know, how do you come out and prove any of this stuff is kind of hard. You know, who knows, maybe they're doing this stuff to me, I don't know. I'm not going to let them put me under a scalpel to find out. So let me go on and let's move on, because I'm getting near the end of all this, and I know there's some people here that are just dying to see those photos. So the photos that I'm going to go ahead and play those right now. You can go see that. These are some photos of a large alien spacecraft that was seen through the window of the International Space Station. Now, these photos are classified and have not been made public until now. Someone suggested that perhaps these are the new Minotaur craft, which is replacing the now obsolete TR-3B. Now, TR-3B is a triangular delta-shaped craft that the military uses to abduct people in meat labs. And now, I couldn't even comment on the Minotaur, but these crafts are not the Minotaur or TR-3B or anything military or government. A remote viewer looked inside them and saw that the craft was extremely ancient. And on board there were tall grays from Rigel B. It is a large scout ship with from an approaching fleet. Most of the grays on board were in cryostasis but are now being waken up. So, it almost sounds like something from that movie Aliens, I don't know. When I sort of looked at it, I almost got the feeling that they were reptilian, but apparently those grays come from the reptilian genetics, so I guess, anyway. Well, so that's it, everyone. Thanks for watching Super Soldier Talk. Please visit my website at www.neologicaltech to hear free guided meditations to bring about healing and ascension. And I also have some tools to help reverse MK programming. And again, if you don't, there's actually a link on my website on how to create a device. It's the instructions are on the internet how to make one that can help you out. So all that's free. And well, I guess with that, I'm going to say goodbye, everyone. Agent Sabretooth, over and out. Bye-bye.